Before you know it, it's a great big lump of fungus coming your way.
Eavesdroppin.
Well, it's you, Michelle. Hello. Looking at you. Here's looking at you, kid.
I'm looking at you, kid, and you are giving me Tiger King vibes. You've got, what do you call that? You're not a furry. I mean, you could be a furry.
What?
Who knows what goes on behind closed doors?
Is that a sexual thing?
No, but you've got this lovely fluffy, would you call it fluffy?
Yes,
blue?
it's a fake fur, blue tiger.
Yes,
I found it. I'm back to charity shopping, Michelle. I bloody love it.
I love it too, and I can't do it here.
Because there ain't no charity shops up the mountain.
There's no charity shops here, and I have to say, Swiss style, they're not known for it.
It's a bit shit.
They're not known for it. Bit shit is being generous.
Oh, dear. Be careful what you say. Oh, by the way, Michelle, you're Michelle.
And you are Geordie.
That's correct. And we together, chitty-chatting like this, we're eavesdropping. It's a podcast. It's weekly.
It's meant to be comedy. But whether you laugh or not, that's anyone's guess.
It's up to you.
It is.
You can laugh, you can cry, you can shout. In fact, I've got something to say about that in a little while. But first, I want to give you some television recommendations. Would that be okay with you, Michelle?
Go for it.
I don't know how much time you've got to watch television these days.
Not much.
Not much. But let me tell you that there's a witch. She's a television witch, if you like to call her that. Her name's Safka. She's a regular listener. And she loves the telly. And I'll tell you what she's told me about the telly. She has said that she watched Better Man, which is that bloody, what's his guts, Robbie Williams film. And I said nothing to that because, I'm not a fan of Robbie Williams. She said it was a great concept.
I don't know too much about it. I know that you are not a Robbie Williams fan.
He's a monkey in it.
Okay.
Great concept, I suppose. That is kind of cool. And it's real. It's not like animated, but it's a fake monkey. Like it's a AI monkey or something inserted into the film. I don't know.
Look, I think you have to roll with the fact that she said it was a good concept because Safka's Rex have been, pretty good over the years. I don't think she's really let us down.
I guess.
Get on that.
Yeah.
I'll link that shit up on the Patreon. And if you don't know what we're talking about, we have a Patreon where you can support us.
Oh, yeah.
You can give us a little bit of coin, and in return, you get some free stuff.
Extra lovin'. Extra droppings, actually, is what you get.
Yes, you do. And you get bits and pieces. Recently on the Patreon, I had a little recollection about that song we talked about last week.
Right.
You only get what you give. New Radicals.
Yes. What about it?
I remembered loads of things about that time in that song, and I met the guitar player in it and all sorts. All of these things over on the Patreon.
Michelle, have you been also journaling the journey of the lion's mane in my bathroom that I've been sending pictures of to you?
It's coming. It's coming, people. It's coming. It's riveting stuff.
If you could do it because I haven't got time to do this, it would be great to see it in like one of those stop motions, kind of like 1 minute it's a tiny speck of white. Before you know it, it's a great big lump of fungus coming your way. At times shaggy, at times smooth.
And then in your gob. Lion's mane's all the rage. Everyone's talking about the lion's mane. Adaptogens, all that stuff.
I've been on it for years, Michelle. It's what's kept my brain functioning, although not so much at the moment because I'm not taking it. Although I am taking it, actually, because husband's put it in a tincture and I pop that in my coffee and it's much better.
Yes, you're so lucky you've got a husband who can make those things. Very good. So are there more telerecs? Because I will say last week I did mention about the Aurora murders. I managed to watch them. There's 5. I've watched 4.
5 murders.
There's 5 episodes so far.
Okay.
And it's broken in 2. There's a murder that happens in 3 episodes, and then there's a whole separate murder over 2 episodes.
Oh, extra murders.
Last night, after a particularly hard night, Andreas and I thought we just need some murder because we wanted to murder some people in that fucking restaurant, I tell you.
Settle down and have a good murder.
We watched it. Oh, my God, I went to bed terrified.
Well, no wonder you didn't sleep.
I know at the end of the episode, and no spoilers, I'm just going to say, an axe was produced. We are in Aura, we are in the mountains in Sweden, we are in a ski resort, but it's scary shit, and I would say it's good. Give it a watch,
All right.
people.
I must seek it out because I do love a murder. I'm currently watching Silent Witness. You know I always watch it, even though I thought it was a bit shit the last few seasons. The one I saw last night was really good. The plain one for anyone who's in the know. But Safka also recommends a documentary about hair metal, and I unfortunately have just lost my notes, so I can't remember what it's called. It's something like Nothing But a Good Time, History of Hair Metal. I think it's that. And the other one was season 3 of Yellow Jackets. She's really excited about that. I've only seen season 1 and I gave up.
That's the same with me. I gave up after the end of season 1.
It's strung it out too long.
Yes.
That's what it was. Just want to know what's happened at the end. Stop flipping back and saying, giving us an idea that maybe there's cannibalism or something and not actually referring to it.
Well, do you know what? It gave me Twin Peaks Laura Palmer vibes where everyone was riveted and then it just got a bit long in the tooth and everyone switched off. Yes. That's how I felt about Yellow Jackets.
Oh, I hear you.
David Lynch, though, what a hero. What a genius.
I know. R.I.P. David Lynch.
Maybe we do something on him. Yeah.
Yes. But Michelle, I want to talk about the internet. I had a bit of a shock last week, didn't I, when I looked at our TikToks?
Yeah. Yes. I had some very anxious messages from you.
And this happened way back in the beginning of our podcast when we did the I Knew a Murderer episode, and suddenly we realized that murderer may not be in prison anymore. And then somebody who spent some time in prison with him asked us for his contact details. We're not a hookup session here. We're not prison matchmakers.
No, but I think that did really alert us to the fact that sometimes you've got to be careful about what you say in the public domain. You never know who's listening.
People listen, exactly. On the back of that, I wanted to just say, please, internet, can you try and be kind, please? It's the greatest invention of the 20th century. It connects us. It enables us to find our way to places, to learn, to grow, to share things. But it is also being used against us. And it's not just this thing that happened that made me think this. It's generally. Obviously, we talk a lot about conspiracies. Some are just stupid, like the birds aren't real one. Some are much darker, like the Hampstead hoax, which is about the children who said that their father was
the leader of a pedophile sex
cult. In a sex cult. And we did a silly video on TikTok, and before you know it, we had a lot of people commenting. Now, in the beginning, I didn't care. It was people saying things like, tell us the rest of the story then. And I'm like, well, it's a fucking podcast, you dick. Just go and listen. Or it's true. I believe it 100%. And all of this stuff, right? Which I also ignored because I just thought, well, none of you really know what you're talking about. You've just heard something shocking and just gone with it. Facts aren't being checked before you're getting your comments down. But then it got dark, Michelle, because as I've told you, the story's protagonist, Abraham Christie, who was the man responsible for coercing these children, we believe, into making the claims, and had form because his previous partner's children came forward in the story that we told and confirmed it. He's on TikTok. God, his fucking account is dark, dark, dark. It's got loads of videos of those kids, unfiltered, their faces, everything, no respect whatsoever for them. Well, he got hold of our post, reposted it, shared it, loved the comment section, said things like, this comment section is 100%. Basically, it gave me the shivers because I thought, man, what if people do? Because also there were a couple of comments about, what we had said, particularly I think what you'd said in the video, Michelle, them saying, why is she laughing? She must be in on it. They must be pedophiles too. These guys are also in a sex cult, and that's why they're talking about it.
It made me laugh because obviously, they don't know we're a comedy podcast and that we see the lighter side of dark subjects. But secondly, they're in on it. It's as bad as Pizzagate.
It is, but it's so easy to get sucked in.
I just laughed that shit off because accusing us of being in on the sex cult pedophile ring, it just made me laugh. I mean, the easy way to deal with this is to either delete the video, delete their comments.
I deleted it.
Just delete them from our life and move on. I mean, the less airtime you give these people, the better, because they're just parasites on society. It's terrible.
We can't say that they're parasites on society. They're probably just people sitting in their houses, in their rooms, being connected by the internet. And it's doing a really good job because it's making people wonder, whether we are pedophiles or if George Clooney is a lizard, than actually doing anything about the real problems in the world. which annoys me. So you can sit there and you can make your bloody comments, you can have your arguments, you can incite people to violence, but you can just sit back and go, oh, I heard something. Oh, that's a shock. Let's just believe it straight away. So to be clear, if you see our name linked with any wild internet theories, just remember, we're just here for the tea and the laughs.
We're not here for promoting any kind of sex cult. Because obviously, for anyone who hasn't listened to that episode, please do go back and listen. We debunk this.
And that's why they don't like it, you see. But we're not on anyone's side except the side of common sense, critical thinking, and a jolly good titter. So if you ever find yourself believing something outrageous you saw on TikTok, just take a deep breath, touch some grass, and just remember that not everything on the internet is real, except for this podcast, of course.
Yes, we are not AI.
And on the plus side, though, Michelle, we got a really good comment from a lady called Katie Asher, who, if you remember, was the mother of Houston Asher when we did our episode a few weeks ago on the telepathy tapes. Her son Houston and her, they were mentioned in our episode and in the original telepathy tapes. And she got in touch to say, read the Book of Heaven to understand about the deeper connections and the truth about what really happens when your non-verbal autistic child can communicate via telepathy.
Very interesting.
They say that Houston does, you see. So that was nice to be contacted by someone that we did talk about, but not so nice to be contacted by someone that we talked about in the negative way. So there's swings and roundabouts, I suppose.
Well, that's the ups and downs of the internet. If I got worried about every time we were trolled for doing a dancing vid or somebody said a shit comment about any bloody thing that we do on the internet, but you just got to brush it off, as Taylor Swift would say, who obviously is a demonic devil worshipper.
Satanist, yeah.
You just got to shake it off. Do what you do, which is true crime.
And with that in mind, Michelle, true crime, today's episode is all about missing people. Do you want to take the floor, Mish, and tell us all about it?
Well, this case was given to us by Eavesdroppin Monique, who I think was probably just as confused about what the fuck is going on with this case as you are going to be, Geordie and dear listeners. So let's dive into the curious case of Mary Day. Mary Louise Day was born on February 19, 1968, to Charlotte and Charles Day. That sounds pretty straightforward, except her mother, Charlotte, had a lot of kids to a lot of different husbands. And no judgment on that.
No shade, exactly.
No judgment. It's just that this bit of info could be quite crucial when it comes to y'all thoughts and theories on this. So bear with me. Charlotte is Mary Day's mother. Charlotte's first husband was a man called Hubert Pressler. But while she was married to Hubert, Charlotte had an affair with Charles Day, who eventually became her second husband. They had 2 children, Mary and Kathy. But while she was married to Charles, Charlotte had an affair with a guy called Ira Hoke and had a daughter called Sherrie. Charlotte then had another affair with a guy called William Hull. They eventually got married, and William became her third husband. So we've got Hubert, Charles Day, who is Mary Day's father, Ira and William, and 3 children from all these unions, of which Mary Louise Day was the oldest, followed by Kathy and Sherrie. Now, according to Sherrie, the 3 sisters did not have a great upbringing and spent a lot of their childhood in and out of foster homes because Charlotte was either unable to care for her kids or just didn't want to, because apparently she was a bit of a wild spirit. There's a lot of pictures of her in dancing outfits, like, you know, showgirl style, and she was a free spirit.
What year is this, Michelle? I may have missed that, sorry.
So Mary Louise Day was born in 1968, but that was Charlotte's second marriage. I should have looked up when Charlotte was born. Charlotte, I think, was also probably unable to care for her kids because I think she was a bit depressed. I think she had some mental health struggles because one of the times the girls were put into foster care was because Charlotte had apparently attempted suicide, for which she was taken to hospital for quite some time. And the girls were put into emergency foster care and were taken in by a family called the Waltzers, who took all 3 girls. And they were there for quite some time, during which Charlotte got out of the hospital and married William Hull. So eventually Charlotte and William were awarded custody of Mary and Kathy and Sherrie, except Sherrie didn't want to go. She wanted to stay with the foster family, the Waltzes. So according to Sherrie, when she and her sisters were collected by Charlotte and William from foster carers, the Waltzes, Sherrie, who was 6 at the time, peed on her mum in the car.
Oh.
And Charlotte was so enraged by this that she said to William, turn the car around. We're dropping this one back. So she turned the car around, went back to the Waltzes and said, you can have this one. And they split up the girls. So they left Sherrie with the foster family, who eventually formally adopted Sherrie and were absolutely beautiful, loving parents.
Oh, okay.
Meanwhile, Charlotte and William have Kathy and Mary. And because William had, in the meantime, enlisted in the army, the family was stationed to Hawaii. So the family gets shipped off there. And while living in Hawaii, Charlotte and William have 2 more children, Billie Jean and William Jr. In the meantime, Mary and Kathy's biological father, Charles Day, gets killed in some kind of accident, and the girls are left a small inheritance. These girls are not happy, and they have this plan to run away. They used the escape plan. They used a code name called Mohawk, which whenever they would talk about getting away out of their unhappy home life, they'd be like, yeah, Mohawk.
Right.
Just pin that little bit of info.
Okay.
So in December 1980, Mary was removed from the family home and placed into protective custody because it turns out that Mary was being physically abused by William.
Oh, no.
I hope that only means, smacked around a bit and not anything worse, although that in itself is fucking terrible.
It's terrible.
So after Mary was put into protective custody, the rest of the family moved to Seaside, California. And a few months later, Mary was taken out of protective custody, and I think this was in Hawaii, and she was shipped back to California to live with her family again. And clearly Mary was not happy being back there because while living in Seaside, California, she reportedly ran away multiple times, but was always sent back home. To be clear, this kid, Mary Day, has a history of trying to run away because she's being abused. She's been in and out of foster care, and she's clearly an unhappy child in an unhappy family.
Heartbreaking.
So during this time, Mary and Kathy, the 2 girls, would have phone calls with their sister Sherrie, who is with the foster family, and they would write letters, and then one day all of that stopped. So on or around the 15th of July, 1981, when Mary Day was 13 years old, Mary supposedly just up and left and disappeared from the family home and was never seen again. The weird thing is, her mum and dad never reported her missing.
Oh.
And almost no one knew she was missing except for her family, because Mary, when she'd been shipped back to California, she wasn't enrolled in school. So she'd sort of slipped through the net. 2 years later, when Sherrie was 12, she got a letter from her sister Kathy, and the address was a New York address. So she asked her adopted family to drive her to see her sisters. And when she got there, she did catch up with Mary and her birth mother, Charlotte. She said, where's Mary? She drove to see Kathy. So many bloody names here. I'm so sorry. It's getting confusing, even for me. Sherrie went to see Kathy and her mum, Charlotte. When she got there, she's like, where's Mary? And Charlotte told Sherrie, your sister Mary ran away. She was always running away. She's gone.
And that's that.
Sherrie was 12 and just believed all of this. Then she said to her birth mother, look, do you have any pictures of Mary? And Charlotte said, I burned them all.
Oh, my God.
Basically, your runaway sister is dead to me. It's really fucked up. So then fast forward to 1994, when Sherrie, the sister, the adopted sister, is now 23. And as an adult, she just cannot get her head around what the hell happened to her sister.
Having never heard from her sister again in all those years.
Nope. So she decides it's time to report her sister as missing to the police.
Good girl.
Nothing much happens with this case until 1999, when Mary's information is sent to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children in the USA. And they sort of start taking this case seriously, even though it's an old cold case from 1981.
Yeah.
They decide to do an age progression photo, and they release this, which shows what Mary Day might look like at age 31. And the case slowly starts to attract more attention. Eventually, in 2002, an official investigation into Mary's disappearance begins, and the authorities realise there is nothing for Mary Louise Day on record. Obviously, she was never reported missing.
Right.
There's no social security numbers that have ever been used. There's no evidence of Mary ever applying for or having any kind of identification, like a passport or driver's license. So it's pretty clear that the police are at this point looking for a body, not a missing person. The police contact Mary's sister Kathy to see if she had any recollections from the night Mary went missing. So Kathy tells the police about an incident that happened when the family dog, the night Mary disappeared. This thing happened where apparently Kathy and Mary had stayed home. They were told, look after yourselves. Charlotte and William went out. The girls were told to stay in the house and keep an eye on the dog, who was called Bubba Brown. That's the dog.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Bubba Brown.
Yeah, Bubba Brown. Bubba Brown. It doesn't roll off the tongue, does it?
Not really.
I mean, he probably just got called Bubba for short. Apparently that night, Bubba Brown, got sick. The kind of sick where this dog was foaming at the mouth and vomiting over everything.
That's terrible.
I mean, who knows? Maybe they fed him chocolate or he was literally just sick. No one knows. When William and Charlotte arrived back home after just going out in the town, they saw the dog being sick all over everything, vom everywhere. William hit the roof and accused Mary and Kathy of poisoning his dog.
Oh.
Now, I think Mary must have been a little bit feisty because she was not having it apparently, and she was arguing back with William. Keep in mind, this is the girl who had been physically abused by William, so she's arguing back. Kathy was then ordered to go to her bedroom, and then Kathy apparently, through a crack in the door, saw William beating the living shit out of Mary.
Oh, no.
To the point where she was cut up, bruised, blood streaming out of her mouth. The next morning, when Kathy asked her mum, Charlotte, where's Mary? Charlotte told her, Mary ran away and you were never to speak of your sister ever again.
I can't believe that.
Yep.
The mother would take the husband's side of her children. I'm sorry, I'm sounding a bit judgy there, but I'm really upset by that.
Well, Mary was obviously never taken to the hospital. She was never reported missing. She apparently just ran away. And that was that. I think also maybe the dog died. I'm not sure.
Oh, fuck.
Then shortly after, the family picks up and moves to base housing, army base housing, on the East Coast. But in the meantime, in between Mary going missing and the family moving, Kathy remembers her dad talking to her about the backyard. Before Mary supposedly ran away, Kathy and Mary could play anywhere in the backyard. But after Mary disappeared, William told Kathy, you're not allowed in this particular area of the backyard anymore. You are not to go in this area. And he drew out an imaginary line that Kathy was never allowed to cross.
Mm-hmm.
Now, all of this led Sherrie and the police to believe that Mary had been murdered by William and buried in the backyard.
Yes, of course.
So investigators managed to track down William and Charlotte, who were living in Kansas at this point, and were estranged from their two daughters, Kathy and Sherrie, and they interviewed William and Charlotte about Mary's disappearance. Charlotte apparently no remorse. She just said, she's dead, she's dead.
Wow.
She then said she bought Mary a bus ticket to another city called Salinas, and that was the last she ever saw of her. Remember, Mary was 13.
Right.
So basically she's saying she put her kid, who was beaten to a pulp, on a bus. That's it, bye-bye.
Christ.
So when investigators asked William about Mary, he said, I don't know. I blacked out. And pretended not to remember anything about that night. Not the dog, not anything. Then he claimed, oh, that's right. Mary poisoned my dog, killed him. And then he claimed to have searched for Mary in every bedroom, but unable to find her, he and Charlotte panicked and called the police and reported her missing at the Salinas police station, which clearly the police knew was untrue because there were no missing persons reports filed for Mary. After interrogating William further, he did finally confess to beating the shit out of Mary on the night she went missing. He admitted that he had been furious, that the dog was sick when he got home. And he said he used a martial arts move on Mary to shut her up and indicated a move that he hit her throat.
Oh my God.
Which I find totally sickening.
That's horrific.
The morning after the beating, William said he remembers Charlotte told him, "You were possessed by a demon last night." And when the police asked him, "Listen, could you have killed Mary out of rage?" William said no. But when the police then asked him if the demon inside him could have killed Mary, he said yes.
Oh my God.
So hearing all of this, the police decided they needed to go to the house where Mary had last lived and dig up that backyard. So first of all, they took cadaver dogs there to see if they could find anything in the backyard. They went there on 4 separate occasions with 4 different cadaver dogs, and each dog went to the exact same area in the backyard, which was where Kathy had been told not to play. So the police eventually did decide to dig up the area, and they were pretty confident they were going to find Mary's remains there. So they dug. And first of all, they found a child's shoe, which the sisters confirmed was a shoe that Mary had. So they were bracing themselves to find her remains next. But there was nothing there.
Wow.
Nothing. No bones, no remains, no nothing. So trying to pin this murder on William was not going to be as easy as they thought. Also, while the investigations were happening, police discovered that Charlotte had had another child. Mm-hmm. This child was called Jeannie, and she was Herbert and Charlotte's daughter. So she was actually older than Kathy and Mary and Sherrie.
Where was she?
She was in a different state, and somehow they managed to piece together that there were all of these other children that Charlotte had and no one knew about. Secret children.
So she didn't keep them?
No, she did not keep these children. The only children she kept were
the 3 girls,
Kathy and Mary, and then the 2 that they had in Hawaii, Billie Jean and William Jr. So this might become relevant because I've got a theory about all this, which I'll talk about at the end. So then on November 25, 2003, police in Arizona, they noticed this weird pickup truck and it had stolen number plates. So they stopped this pickup and they checked the ID of all the passengers inside this pickup. And inside the pickup truck was a woman who, according to the ID, was called Mary Day. And on her Arizona driving license was her name and date of birth, which apparently matched that of missing Mary Louise Day.
How the hell?
When police interviewed this woman, they called her Phoenix Mary because they couldn't quite believe it was the same Mary. But the thing is, she told them she had run away from home to escape the abuse and never went back.
Wow.
But the police didn't buy it.
No.
For a start, Phoenix Mary had a thick Southern accent, which was strange because Mary Day had never lived in the South. When I say thick, it was really Southern. Really. And that's a terrible accent. But
yes.
She really had a very thick accent. I know, I'm terrible.
I think I get it, though. I think I get it.
They also discovered that her driver's license, which was her only form of ID, had only been issued 3 weeks before she was arrested. They thought the only way to prove this woman is a fake is to do a DNA test. So they asked Phoenix Mary, will you do a test? And she willingly gave them a saliva sample. And when the results came back, the DNA results showed, to everyone's disbelief, Phoenix Mary was in fact a biological child of Charlotte.
Oh.
She is
Mary.
A sister to all of these people.
But is she Mary?
Well, that is the question.
That is the question.
Yes. So police being police and wanting to wrap up the investigation were like, oh, DNA, case closed. This is Mary. They just wanted to get this off their plate. End of story.
They accepted that was Mary who ran away with various injuries, age 13, in one shoe.
Yes, pretty much. So in the meantime, Sherrie, who had been told by police, DNA test proved this is your sister, she was like, oh my God, my sister's back. I can't believe it. And she invited this Mary to live with her in North Carolina. However, when Sherrie saw Mary at the airport, she was like, that's not my sister. In fact, Sherrie and Kathy, despite the DNA test, still had serious doubts about who the fuck this woman really was, as they found it hard to get past the strong Southern accent, the fact that this woman had no recollection of their childhood, didn't remember their code word Mohawk for their escape plan. This woman had no idea who Bubba Brown the dog was. This woman didn't remember names or dates of things from their past, didn't remember what happened the night she supposedly ran away, but most of all, because the sisters discovered mail addressed to somebody called Monica Devereaux.
Right.
But she did look a bit like Mary, and she was around the right age. And then there was the DNA test. So, could Mary be so traumatized by everything that happened to her that she blocked out everything, disassociated?
We have heard of cases like that in the past. We've done a story about a man who, disappeared and then reappeared many years later.
Exactly. So things like this can happen. They didn't know, but they felt that something just didn't add up. Also, Sherrie quickly realized that Mary did have a lot of serious mental health struggles. And in Sherrie's opinion, after living with Mary, she felt like there were three Marys inside her. The smiley happy one who wore makeup and was cheerful, the angry one who wanted to kill everyone, and the alcoholic one who was just kind of sloppy.
Whoa.
So eventually Sherrie did ask Mary to leave, as it wasn't safe for Sherrie's kids to be around Mary, and their relationship broke down. Meanwhile, the police who had been working on the Mary Day missing persons case could not reconcile that this woman, who had been missing for 20 years, that no one had heard a peep from in all that time, and then just weeks after they interviewed Charlotte, the mother, and Mary about her disappearance, this woman shows up and she's Mary Day.
Right.
What the hell was going on? So some of the police, and in their own time and also through the system, started digging into it again and realised that Phoenix Mary was actually using a different birthday to the real Mary Day's birth date. Mary Day was born on the 19th of February 1968, but Phoenix Mary was using the birth date the 21st of December 1966. And I don't know how the police missed that the first time round.
Right, yes. Major glaring red flag.
And then the theories started swirling around. Could the DNA match simply prove that Charlotte had had another secret child, and here she was?
Yeah.
Could Charlotte and William have convinced this long-lost daughter to pretend that she was Mary Day to get them off the hook of a murder charge?
Yes, and meanwhile the body has been moved.
Well, this is it. No matter, what the theories were, none of them stuck, and the case was dropped again until 2017, when Sherrie contacted investigators once again to tell them that Phoenix Mary was dying of cancer, and maybe they could go to the hospice and see if they could get a deathbed confession from her. And they went. The police went. And they spoke to her just 9 days before Phoenix Mary died in 2017. But Mary insisted to her dying day she was Mary Day. And she said, quote, "I know I'm going to meet my maker, but I want everyone to know that I am not missing." After Mary died, police tracked down a woman and her boyfriend whom Phoenix Mary had told them had taken her in as a child. And they said, yes, we did take in this young girl. They had a photo of, apparently, Phoenix Mary as a 15-year-old.
Yes.
And I saw this pic, and I'm really on the fence as to whether or not it is the original Mary Day or not. I don't think it is, firstly, because the girl in the pic looks older than 15.
Right.
Secondly, there is a resemblance, but you don't look at it and think, here's a smoking gun, this is Mary Day.
Yeah.
Thirdly, I think Mary was killed by Charlotte and William.
I agree.
And Phoenix Mary was a different daughter who had mental health issues and was manipulated into pretending to be Mary or brainwashed into really thinking she was Mary.
Exactly.
And I did watch quite a shit documentary about this case called The Girl Who Died Twice. And Sherrie was driving the narrative of this show in it. Sherrie does go to see her estranged birth mother, Charlotte, in a nursing home, hoping for answers. about Mary, but Charlotte is angry, will not say a word about any of it, denied every scenario that was put to her about Mary's death.
Yeah.
So if there's any truth to be gleaned from this, the two people who might actually know something will take that to their grave.
Yeah.
And then there was this memory that Kathy shared with Sherrie, which happened a few months after Mary disappeared. It was when they were moving from the West Coast to the East Coast. One night, Kathy and her stepfather, William, were driving from their old home in Fort to their new home in New York. And Kathy told Sherrie this chilling story of how she remembers on this kind of relocation trip, which was days and days of driving across America. She and William were in the car driving. He stops in the middle of nowhere in Utah. William tells Kathy, do not look back. Do not look at me outside of the car. Just keep your eyes forward. He goes to the boot of the car to do something, and they were in the salt flats. The salt was really strong,
Oh my God,
the smell.
Michelle.
Of course, he told her to look straight ahead.
Yeah.
Kathy's like, I'm looking around, see what the hell's going on. She sees William pulling out of the boot this big oriental rug, dragging it out of the car and dragging it into the salt flats, into the desert. And he saw her looking back at him and yelled, don't you look back at me. And she was so angry that she was scared. He was gone for quite some time. When he came back, he did not have the rug anymore and he was covered in dirt. So could Mary have been dug up from that backyard, stuffed into that rug, dumped in the middle of the Utah desert salt flats? I think it's possible.
Oh, yeah.
To this day, no one knows what really happened to Mary Day. Did she run away? Was she murdered? Was Phoenix Mary really an older, traumatized Mary Day? Was she really an imposter? And the only one who really knows is Charlotte, Mary Day's mother, and she won't tell.
And she's not telling. No. Oh, that's a dreadful, dreadful story, Michelle. I mean,
Sorry.
It's fascinating, but the real problem for me is the fact that those parents were so abusive towards those children, and that lovely 13-year-old girl was treated so appallingly that not only did her life not matter, but her potential death didn't matter either. Heartbreaking.
Sorry.
No.
Pick up your panties and go, Jen. Pick up your panties and go. You don't need that. Leave the kids behind. Pick up your panties and go.
So I have a missing person story, Michelle, also quite frustrating because there are no answers either. Sorry about it. I do remember we said to each other, missing and found. I don't think this is fully established whether or not we know who this person who went missing is. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about it.
All right.
The location is Wadesboro in Anson County, and you touched on this place just previously. One of your people in your story was in North Carolina. This is where Wadesboro is in Anson County. And we're in the United States, of course. And it's May 12th, 2022. During a land survey in the Anson Woods in Wadesboro, behind the National Guard Armory, this armory is basically a building where the U.S. National Guard trains, meets, holds parades. In the woods behind this armory, a very grim discovery was made. It was a skeleton of a female along with some items of clothing and has remained unidentified ever since. The discovery was only made early in 2024 via a posting on something called www.nameus.gov, which is a government website in the United States for missing and unidentified people.
Oh, God, that's a heartbreaking website.
Or bodies, if you like.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
The Jane Does and the John Does of the world.
The Janes and the John Does, exactly. More information revealed that there was a backpack that was discovered in February in 2022 by two hunters near the location of the skeleton. This is pre the skeleton being discovered, right? The discovery of the skeleton happened in May 2022. But we only found out about it, the world only found out about it in 2024 through the nameus.gov website. The hunters who said they found the backpack said that they took some money out of it and then reported the backpack to police that they found it, but they didn't bring it. They left it in the woods, which is kind of weird. And since then, neither the hunters nor the police have been able to locate the backpack after it was reported in as being found.
What would you do
I would take the fucking backpack in.
Yes, I would too. I think it's weird they left it.
I wouldn't take the money. But actually, conflicting reports about these hunters say that they may have been kids.
Right. Okay.
You would go through it as well and look for identification.
Okay. And also, too, maybe they were illegally hunting and kids would just take the money,
just
of
kids,
course.
I reckon.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But according to the information on NamUs.gov, the body was found wearing a black Secret Treasures bra, size 34C, and leggings. And the weird thing was that there was a woman matching this description wearing bra and leggings seen on a trail camera that was near where the body was eventually found in August 2021.
Who goes hiking in bra and leggings?
That's the weird thing. And it's the middle of the night. I've seen the images. This woman has long blonde hair and, like I said, just wearing a bra and leggings, no shoes, no shirt. She's holding a stick in the picture I saw. And aside from this information, there's nothing else to go on. The cause of death, the hair color, a description of the backpack or its contents, none of that has ever been made public. And local residents in Anson County took to their local Facebook page to share their shock and couldn't believe the lack of news coverage on this strange and tragic incident.
Yeah.
Obviously, though, it sparked a lot of interest in those online sleuths of Reddit and the rest. A lot of them are smelling a rat at the lack of transparency from media and law enforcement regarding the case. And it's just really unsettling to me and everybody who has looked into this case at all as to why the woman in the trail camera images found herself alone in the woods, half naked, in the middle of the night. Was she running away from someone? Was she escaping a predator? The images show her using a stick. Was she injured? She first appeared on the trail camera at 1:33 a.m. and then again at 1:34 a.m. And in the first picture, you can barely spot her on the right side of the frame as she moves past a nearby deer feeder. And in the second one, she's totally gone, which makes people think maybe she was running at that time.
Shit. Because that was my initial thought, is she's running away from people.
It's just two pics. Yeah, 2 minutes apart. Yeah.
She's got a stick.
She's running past this deer feeder. No stick at this point. No stick. She's running. Then the same person is seen again later on the trail camera coming from the opposite way. This time it's 4:30 and 4:31 a.m. And in these three images taken during this time frame, she's moving slower with what appears to be a noticeable limp and a stick that she's using to help her walk, which is the picture that I saw. And a lot of the armchair detectives think that the hunters that found the backpack need to come forward. Well, I'd agree with that. And why didn't they report it straight away? And where is the backpack now? With this much speculation, there's bound to be some ideas on who this Jane Doe might be. And yes, a couple of names have been put forward. April Reed was one name. She told family and friends that she was headed to see friends in South Carolina. April didn't have a car, so friends and family assumed that she either hitchhiked or got a Greyhound bus. And April had also previously sustained serious injuries in a car crash about a year before she disappeared. As a result, she had impaired speech, she walks with a limp, uses a cane to assist her mobility. She is classified as disabled, and April was reported missing by her family on March 20, 2021. They hadn't heard from her in weeks at this point, and after she went missing, a healthcare worker called the police about April, who was one of her clients, because she hadn't been in touch. So this healthcare worker checked April's apartment, found it unusually messy, so she took some photos. And then April's sister went to the apartment, and she said it looked like someone had been there and moved things around, but no indications of a violent struggle. April's stuff, including her phone, was left behind. However, dental records of the skeleton and of April ruled April out as being the Jane Doe found in the woods.
I was going to ask, did she have long blonde hair?
Yes, but the dental records didn't match.
You can't fuck with dental records. They're pretty watertight.
Okay. So then there's Amber Rae Johnston, or Johnson. I can't remember which one it is. Johnson, let's say. She'd been missing from Bullhead City, Arizona since August 17, 2021. Apparently, Amber did take a Greyhound bus from Arizona to Pittsburgh on August 17, 2021, to visit her boyfriend, and her mobile phone pinged in the Charlotte area, which does not put Amber anywhere near where the body was found, But some people speculate that she walked or was taken to Wadesboro. It's quite a way away. Amber's boyfriend was said to be waiting for her to arrive in South Carolina, and he has sadly since died in September 2023. And yes, some of these armchair sleuths are pointing the finger at the boyfriend. But that's all I could find. It's really hard to find the information.
Okay.
Perhaps you and your dark web subscription could have done better, but not me. It was reported that Amber's bus had stopped in Winston-Salem in North Carolina, where Amber disembarked from the bus. This information has been confirmed by the detective in charge of her case, Scott Sharp, and there have been no further sightings of Amber Rae Johnston since. It's Johnston, not Johnson, sorry. Amber's mother disclosed that the police told her they believed that her daughter might have been on drugs, became paranoid, and chose to throw away her phone whilst traipsing to Wadesboro from the other place that she got off the bus. Can't remember the name, soz.
That's interesting, because I would have just said this sounds a little bit far-fetched that she would be on her way to meet her boyfriend and then end up quite a way away in Wadesboro. But if the mother is saying there's a potential,
yes,
who knows?
The information that the family and friends had given to the police probably helped them come to that conclusion. But either way, it's been a long wait for Amber's family to identify whether or not those remains found in Wadesboro are that of Amber, because she wasn't a frequent visitor to the dentist, Michelle. So DNA results are the main hope to find out who the Jane Doe is now, and if indeed it is Amber Rae Johnston. And it's funny because watching that episode of Nikki, as I call it, aka Silent Witness, I was thinking about how do they find, on a skeleton, often there isn't much DNA left, I think, to be able to test it. But this Arizona detective, Scott Sharp, who, like I said, is in charge of Johnston's case, said, "What I can tell you is that we cannot confirm or rule out Amber. DNA takes time." But the Johnston family gave their DNA back in 2024. So why are we still waiting? Surely it doesn't take that long. So despite the area where the body was found being heavily wooded, this is an interesting little fact, Michelle, it also wasn't too far from the local school, a Taco Bell, and other businesses and homes. So this girl in the woods wasn't that far from civilization.
So it's like a woods maybe on the outskirts of a city rather than in the middle of nowhere.
Behind an armory. But here's another twist, Michelle. There's a video that was believed to have been taken from that Greyhound bus travelling through Alabama at the time of filming that Amber was on, and it was uploaded onto Amber's Facebook page. You don't see or hear Amber. The video is silent and rather disturbing by all accounts. However, Detective Scott Sharp confirmed to Amber's mum that the bus her daughter took to Winston-Salem never travelled through Alabama, so it's probably not her that did it. It was probably somebody else found the phone, is what he's trying to say, I think, and uploaded the video to her Facebook.
See, I've got some theories already.
All right.
What if she never got on that bus, but a different bus? She got on the wrong bus.
Maybe.
What if she was in danger and she uploaded this video as a silent SOS?
Maybe. But Amber's mum is still convinced that it is her daughter, the body in the woods, and she wants answers. She said, "I am 99.9% certain the woman in the trail camera images is my daughter. The side view alone has me convinced. Now, I've looked at the pictures as well, and I agree. I don't know how," this is the mother continuing, she says, "I don't know how Amber got to Wadesboro, but I know she didn't walk there. I am scared that even if this is not Amber, it still needs to be investigated. Just identifying her is not enough. How do you know we don't have a serial killer travelling the area? Maybe follow the buses, like you said, Michelle, from Winston-Salem to Wadesboro. And where is April Reed, the girl that I mentioned earlier? Because she's never been found."
Yeah.
Reddit is blowing up this case, and Apricot Cat 97 has a theory. They say, "My theory is that she, as in Amber, was on some drug that put her in an altered state where she is pursuing some task in her own mind. Time and space do not function under logical rule, even less so than when you are on anything. Therefore, I do not think there is a clear answer or logic as to why she was doing anything at all or not within those hours or days. Who is to say? The week this was captured was also under a full moon. This is still the Reddit post, which anyone in public mental health can tell you is a wicked few days for people who suffer from substance abuse issues, addiction, or just plain old mental health troubles. Ever think you're going a little batty until you see it as a full moon and think, oh, that makes sense? My friend who works in the ER, or who are EMTs, have attested to the influx of patients and crises during the full moon period. Midnight to 5 a.m. are the most active hours. I'm just saying it adds to the oddity in a nearly mundane way. That being said, too, I want to be clear that this is not the fault of the person suffering and having ups and downs. I found Amber's family Facebook and they also seem to think this is her.
Full moon theories. I think there is something in that.
So it does appear that Amber has a history of drug use and paranoia. Plus, some Redditors felt they saw a dark band on the wrist of the person in the shots, which would indicate that she has a tattoo, and it does match up with Amber's tattoos. A lot of things point to it being Amber, but the last news report on the regular web is from April last year. And that, unfortunately, is all I've got about Amber and her disappearance. And whether or not that is the woman, the skeleton that they found, I would say it is definitely the person seen on the trail cam. And why? Who knows? There was no one else in the shots. Only one person showed up. So if she was being pursued for those 2 hours, that pursuer never appeared on the trail cam.
Right. Going back to a point you mentioned earlier, what the fuck is the hold up with the DNA testing here?
Yeah, I don't know. And there's no news reports. It is nothing. There's nothing on the news about it. It is just Redditors. It is just the Anson County Record, which I'll give you the link to, which is the local county newspaper, saying how frustrating it is. We still don't know who it is.
Yeah.
No national news, and the NamUs.gov report.
Who is covering this up?
Or maybe they just think that there's nothing else to talk about. Although it would be nice to match the skeleton with Amber through her familial records.
Look, just for some closure for the family, just to know. They might not know the why, but at least they
know it's her.
They have some kind of, it's her, and there's not this hope that she'll call out of the blue one day. Where is my daughter?
But this is the sad thing, isn't it, Michelle? I mean, more so your story because it was a child and there was no one else looking for her. These are people that are going missing, and there's people going missing all the time. Sometimes people are looking for them, sometimes people aren't.
Well, Mary Day slipped through the cracks because after she was shipped back, after being taken into protective custody, and they put her back with the family, it must have been a school holiday period where she hadn't yet been enrolled. No one followed up.
Yeah.
No one knew she was missing, and the parents could get away with not reporting it. In this instance, there's just so much confusion around your story. Who is it? You know, at least they ruled one person out, poor April.
Yeah, but where is that person?
Where is she? I hope they keep looking because these poor families, I can't even imagine the trauma of not knowing.
Well, really, it is only the families that keep these things alight, keep the Facebook pages going. But unfortunately, now I believe that the Facebook page has come down.
Right.
So maybe they do have some closure, but it's just not being reported.
I mean, this is a little bit like the case we talked about a few weeks ago where the Charlize Theron-backed documentary where the mother was looking for the remains of her adopted daughter. I will say Jen had listened to that episode and said Charlize Theron herself is in Canberra right now.
Oh, is she?
Filming a documentary. And I said to Jen, oh my God, imagine if Charlize Theron was an eavesdropper, heard one of our cases that we've covered and is uncovering some kind of mystery. And the first thing that came to my mind was the double decapitation in the woods.
Yeah.
So I wonder what's going on. If anyone in Canberra knows why the hell Charlize Theron is in Canberra, give us the hot goss. We want to know.
Give us the deets. And now going back to what I said at the beginning of the episode about, people do listen to this podcast. And if it was Charlize listening to our episodes, she may have seen the one about her.
Oh.
And I'm a bit worried. I hope I didn't upset her.
That's all in public domain. Charlize's story is out there. And I think
It is.
that's why Charlize does all of these documentaries about these horrific women's stories, because I think she has a personal connection and an empathy for it. So really keen to know what she's doing and what she's filming in Canberra, of all places.
In Canberra, of all places. Listen, if you are wondering what we're alluding to with the double decapitation in the woods, go on to www.eavesdroppinpodcast.com and you can type in any keywords to find the episode and listen from there if you wish.
Yes. You can also listen to us on Spotify. We're on Apple. We're on all the platforms. Scroll through.
We're coming in your ears right now. I'm sure they know those things.
But yes, thank you for your sad story today.
And thank you for your tragic story as well, Michelle, today.
Yeah, no answers, no resolutions.
Sometimes life's like that.
Sometimes life is like that. And sometimes there's only 3 things left to say.
Wherever you are,
Whatever you do,
just keep
eavesdropping.
Eavesdropping. Eavesdropping. Eavesdropping. Eavesdropping.